congruent.
Okay, and welcome
So
to
that would
1-6,
imply that angle
evaluating
5
linear
is 120
inequalities.
degrees.
Take 57. Now in this
Now
very
notice,
first example, we're
let's
going
see.
to evaluate the points 1, 8.
What about
2,
angles?
1,
Let's
and
use a
5,
different color
3
here.
for y.
What about
is
angles
less than 2x
5
minus 3.
and
And let's
4?
go ahead and see what this looks like for
Well,
each one individually.
this is actually a little bit trickier.
I'm actually gonna
They're
do
not
this.
corresponding.
I'm gonna
They're not
divide
alternate
my
angles.
screen
They're
into
actually two angles on a straight line.
3 or
So
4
really and
sections,
truly,
actually.
we know that both angle
That was
5 and
4
4
sections.
must add up to
Because what we
1,
have to do is
8,
we have to evaluate this function
which would mean
3
that they
times,
are
then we see what it looks like
adjacent.
as a graph.
Okay,
So
they
here,
are
I'll put
adjacent.
less than
Or another way to
2
say is they are a
parentheses
linear
minus 3
pair.
less than
Okay, well wait, if
2
5
parentheses
and 4 add up to
minus
180, all I have to do
and
for angle
less than
4 is just say
2
what's 180.
parentheses
Here, I'll write it
minus
right
3.
here. 180 minus
Okay.
120.
And the reason I did
and
that
of course
is
we know
because
that that
in each
will
one of
be
these cases,
60.
we are going to plug in
Alright,
our
this
x
brings us to
and
our last set.
y value. of
Kind of
each
starting to
point.
like this green a whole
So
lot
for
more.
this very first point,
And we have our
my
4
y value is 8,
and we have our
and
8.
my x value
And notice,
is 1.
let's see,
Let's go ahead and
4 and
simplify
8.
down on the left side.
they're actually
Here,
not anything.
Is less
So in
than
fact, let's not do
2
4 and
times
8.
1,
Let's
which is
do
2 minus 3. And then 8 is less than 2 minus 3 would be negative 1.
let's do
Now I want
5
you to ask
and
yourself,
8.
is that a
And
true
notice,
or false
if you
statement?
have this
Is
parallel line
8
here and this
less
parallel line
than
there,
negative 1?
are 5 and 8, are they on
And
the
of course
inside
that
or are they
is
on the
false.
outside?
And what does that
And
say?
so we'd say that they're
That
on the
means that
outside,
1, 8
so they are
is not
on the
a
exterior.
solution.
And notice
And think
they're on
about this.
opposite sides
What
of
does
that line.
mean?
5
Does
is
that
on
mean
the
it would
left,
fall
8
in
is on the
shaded
right.
region
So there
or
must
the
be
unshaded
alternate
region?
exterior
Our guess
angles,
is that it
which
should
will
fall
still
in
be
the
congruent.
unshaded region.
So if 5 is 120, 8
Okay,
must be
switch to
120.
UT burnt
And there we
orange.
go.
And
You guys
here
check it out. I've just given you a
our
review of
x
vertical
value
angles,
is 2,
alternate
our
interior,
y value is
adjacent
1.
or aka linear
Okay.
pairs, and
So we're just gonna
alternate
simplify
exterior,
both the left
all
and right.
on one
And here we
diagram,
have 2
so you can
times
see
2,
how
which
it
is
comes
4,
together.
minus 3.
Alright, I'll see you guys in our
And
next
1
section.
is less than 4 minus 3 would be
Alright.
negative 1.
Here we are
I'm
in
sorry,
section
would be positive.
1-4,
4 minus 6 is
constructing
positive 1.
angle bisectors.
So what are we saying? We're saying
Now,
that
let's
1
say you
is
see
less
this.
than 1. Well,
You
can something
see
be less
an
than
angle.
itself?
Oh, and by the way,
Of
just a
course
little
not.
review.
And so
Is
the
this
answer
obtuse,
is
acute, or
false.
right? What do you think?
And so here,
Yeah, it's
we
obtuse.
say
It's greater
that
than 90.
2,
Very good.
comma 1 is
And let's
not
say,
a
let's go ahead and give it some
solution.
letters. We'll call it
Now
A,
notice one thing.
we'll call
See
it
how these
B,
numbers are the
and
same?
we'll call it C.
This is actually the case when
Now,
you fall on the dotted
suppose
line.
you then solve
and that's
the
why it doesn't
following
make sense
moves
for a
start to happen.
solution to be
You see
on
a little
a dotted line.
Curve here,
Okay. Here's our final
see a
one.
little
Let's switch to
curve
this red.
there,
You see our y value is
and then you see a
3,
little curve
and our
here,
x value is
and
5.
then you see a little curve there, and then all
Okay,
of a
and we
sudden,
just drop it down. 3
a
is less
line
than
is drawn
2
through
times
this
5
point
is
where those
10
two arcs
minus 3.
intersect.
And 3 is less
And let's
than
call
10
that
minus 3 would be
D.
7. And wait a
Well,
second.
you've just seen the
Is 3
constructions
less than
for
7?
an angle
Yeah.
bisector.
So that is
So
in
what is
fact
an angle
a true
bisector?
statement.
Well,
And so we'd say this
an angle
is a
bisector,
solution.
and I'll just
Which means
abbreviate,
it should be in the
literally means to
shaded
cut
region.
the
Now let's just
angle
kind of draw a simple little graph
in
here.
half. And so this
Let's
is
see if I
actually
can
just kind of like our
squeeze all this
perpendicular
in. I bet I
bisector,
can.
except for
Remember
instead of
our
a line
function
segment,
y is
it's
less
now
than
for an
2x
angle.
minus 3.
So
we go down 1,
we can
2,
actually come up
3
with
from the very
5
first point.
statements of
Now we go up
congruency.
2 to the right.
Let's kind of
1,
talk through those.
And
If
up
this
1,
is
2
cutting
to
the angle in
right
half,
1.
that means that this
And
angle
remember,
is
for a
congruent
less
to
than symbol,
that angle.
we want to use a
Or,
dotted
let's use a different color.
line.
Instead of using one arc, I could use
And if it's less than, we will shade what do
two
you
arcs
think,
here.
above or below.
And of course,
Less
if I
than,
use two arcs
shaded,
there, well, I need
aha,
two arcs
below.
there. Remember, the
Well, basically,
same
long story
number of
short,
arcs
let me put
indicates
these points
congruency.
in their original colors.
Okay.
So if I go to the
let's kinda talk it out.
right 1 and up 1,
If we were to say,
2,
hey,
3,
from A
4, 5,
to B
6, 7,
to
8,
D is
that
half,
point in the
well,
shaded
then that means
region.
that D
No,
to B
and
to
that's
C
why 1 comma
is also
8
half.
was not
And
a
of course, we know
solution.
that half is equal to half.
What
So we
about
have angle A,
2
B,
comma 1?
D
Well, if I go
is
to the right
congruent
2
to
and up 1,
angle
I'm exactly
D,
on that dotted
B,
line. And what do we
C.
say? When you're on a dotted line, it is not
Now, I want to
a
make
solution.
an untrue statement. Let me
So
write
cross
an
that
untrue
out.
statement. This will be our
Lastly,
so that will be our
what about
first
5
statement of
comma 3?
congruency.
1, 2, 3, 4,
Here will be
5,
our second statement of
3.
congruency.
Well, notice
Write
I am
this.
clearly
Angle
underneath the
A,
line
B,
in this shaded
D
region.
is congruent
And so,
to
of course,
angle
this is our one solution.
A, B, C.
All right, I know that was a
And I
little
want you to ask
long
yourself,
and
is that
involved.
true?
I'd encourage you to pause it to finish taking
Well,
notes.
as I look at this,
Let's move on
I
to a
notice the
second
angle
example.
ABD
If
is
you need,
a
and I cannot
half,
stress that enough.
but I notice
If
the
you are
angle
still confused,
ABC
you need
is
this
a
example. But I
whole.
will make this one go a little faster.
Well, in order to make it
we're
true,
going to evaluate
how many
the
halves
y
make a
is
whole?
greater than or equal to
And
negative
hopefully
4 over 3
you said the number 2.
plus 2.
And now that is
And
actually
we're going
a
to
true
evaluate
statement.
it for the following.
Now, of
points.
course, we can write
We're gonna
this
evaluate
statement
it for
using ABD, the
negative
top
6,
angle.
comma
We can do
4.
the same thing
We're going to
using
evaluate
the
it
bottom
for,
angle. We can say, hey,
I believe,
2
0,
angle
2. Check my notes, of course.
DBCs would be congruent
And
to
lastly, we're going to
the whole
evaluate
thing,
for 3,
AB,
4.
C.
So same thing.
Okay. Well, that
Go
brings
ahead
us
and
to our
divide my
fourth,
screen up into at least
Statement of
3
congruency.
sections.
and we could write this.
We'll see how I'm
We could
feeling
actually
about the
say,
graph
hey,
here in a moment.
Angle A, B,
And let me write out my
C
function
is equal
before we
to
begin.
angle A.
Greater than or equal
B,
to negative
D.
4 over 3.
But we know that that's not true.
parentheses.
Well, what
Plus
can we
2.
do to the whole?
Greater than or equal to
make it a
negative
half.
4 over 3.
Oh, you essentially just
parentheses
multiply it
plus
by
2.
1/2.
And lastly, greater
One
than or
half of
equal
the
to
whole, or
negative
1/2
4
of angle
over 3.
ABC is equal to angle
Parentheses
ABD.
plus 2.
And this
Look, the
brings us
same
to
way
our
that I'm
fifth
solving
and
this
final
right now
statement.
is how I
One
would
half
encourage you to
of
solve
the
it.
whole
Be very methodical in the way that you
ABC
graph this.
is congruent to angle
Okay. For our very first point,
DBC.
our x
That
value
other
is
half.
negative 6.
I'd encourage you
and
to
our y
pause
value
this,
is
And let's move
4
on.
to our next
Okay.
section.
So we can say 4 is greater than or equal to. We know a negative
Alright.
times negative is a
Welcome to
positive.
1-4,
And
in this very
6
first section,
divided by
we're going to talk
3
about
is
graphing
2.
lines.
And so, of course, 4
So,
times 2 would
what
give
is a
us
line?
8.
Well, a line is going to be generated
Plus
by
2.
the function
Now here we're saying
y
4 is
equals
greater than or equal to 8
mx
plus 2, which
plus
is 10. And what do you think? Is 4
And it's important to know what
greater
m
to
and b
or
stand
equal
for.
than 10?
m
Sorry,
is
I
going to
flipped
be
that up, or
our
whatever.
slope,
And we'd say, hey, that's actually
and it
a
really
false statement.
indicates
So it's not
delta y
a
over delta
solution.
x. And what does delta y
Okay, let's check
over
out this
delta
next
x
one.
mean?
In our UT
Well,
bar
it
orange,
means
we
the
see our x value is
change
0, our y value is
in
2,
y
and
over
notice anything
the
times 0
change
is
In x.
0.
Okay.
And now we have 2
Also,
is
I
greater
want you
than
to
or
note
equal to
our
2.
slope can be either
Now think about the
positive
wording here.
or negative.
2 is
Alright, what about the
greater
letter
than
B?
or
Well, that
equal to
is our
2.
y
Well, is
intercept.
2 equal to 2? Yeah, it is. So that's
And it's also going to be what I'm going to
And we
call
have
our
solution.
starting.
And notice, because they're the same number,
Starting point.
this means that it's
Oh,
on
and by the way, if it's the
solid
y-intercept,
line. And it
what do you
is a
think that
solution.
means? Is that where
Now
it crosses
here-
the
here's our last
x-axis
point.
or the
We know that our y
y-axis?
value is
Well,
4.
if it's the
We know that our x
y-intercept,
value
it's
is
where it crosses
3.
the y-axis.
And if you will recall, we can write
Okay.
4 is greater than or equal to.
Well, with all of
the
that
number
out
in
of the way, and that is
denominator
basically your
times the number in the numerator. They
we're going to
cancel
talk about
with
some
negative 4
graphs
plus
or
2.
some examples.
And now we
So,
have 4 is greater
you need
than
to
or equal to
pause the video.
negative
If
4
not,
plus 2, which
let's
would
move
be
on.
negative 2. And you have to ask
Okay,
yourself,
here
is
we have
4
example 1.
greater than negative 2?
Y equals
And of course that is true, and we have
2/3
another
x
solution.
plus 1.
Now I didn't know
Now,
if
I wanna-
was
I
going
wanna
to
indicate
do
some
the
things here.
graph or not, but
We
let's
see
just do
here
it ever so
our
quickly.
b term
We
is
know
equal
our
to
y
a
intercept is
positive 1.
positive 2, 1, 2.
And we
Right
also see
there.
here that our slope,
Our
m,
slope
is equal to a
negative 4 over 3,
positive
so I can go down 1, 2,
2/3.
3, 4, 1,
Without
2,
knowing
3.
any specifics
Again,
on how to
1,
graph
2,
this,
3,
I
4,
could actually
1,
roughly
2,
graph this
3,
already.
so we're somewhere over
See,
here.
on our y-axis,
And how do we graph this?
right here,
Well,
whenever
remember,
you're going
it's greater
up,
than or equal to,
that's
so
positive.
we must use
So since my y-intercept is positive, I know it's
that solid
above
line.
the
And
x-axis.
from here,
Also,
we know that in our
my
purple,
slope is
negative
positive,
6,
which means that from
4,
left to right,
1,
it
2,
is
3,
increasing.
4, 5, 6.
So if I wanted to
Negative
draw a
4 is
rough
way
graph
down here.
without any
And wait a
specifics,
second,
I know
didn't shade
it would
the line.
actually have to look something
For y is greater
like that.
than or equal to, should I
Now
shade
let's
it
do
above or
a
below?
specific graph though.
And if you
because
said
it's
above, you
important.
are 100% correct. So we'll
Okay,
notice
here's our
that this
specific
purple
graph.
is
We know
not
that our
inside the
y-intercept
shaded
is
region,
1.
Therefore, it's
So
not
on the
a solution.
y-axis, if I go up to a
And what about
positive
0,
1,
2?
there's that. And
That's right
then
here.
it says that we're
0,
going to
2,
go
it's on
a
the line.
slope of
And we know if we're on a
2
solid line, we
over
are in
3.
fact a
Well, what does
solution.
2 over 3 really mean?
And lastly,
It means that we're going to go
to the right
up
3, I go
2,
up 4,
because remember,
about right
this
there.
2 is our
Well, since
delta
we're
y,
squarely
or our
in the
change
shaded
in y.
region,
And it means we're going to
that's
go
a
to the
solution as well.
right.
I hope
3.
that these examples
And the
have helped
reason
you
that
out.
is because
And
this
if
is
you
delta
understood this,
x.
you are
So
in an
imagine this, when
excellent
you're going
position
up on the
as
y-axis,
far
that's
as where I
positive.
need you to be.
When you're
in
going
terms of
down on the
algebra 2.
y-axis, that's negative.